With less than 100 hours away from the Packers playing the Atlanta Falcons in the divisional round of the NFC playoffs, I'm Kareem Copeland. That's Mike Vandermause. We're about in day three of our new dedication to video. We're going to try to give everybody a little bit of something every single day this week. So here we are back cranking it out. Going to talk a little bit of Packers from today's locker room. I guess the first thing we wanted to talk about, Mike, was you had a little discussion with Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, he was asked by Pam Oliver about this so-called monkey on his back. What do you have to say about that?
Well, he basically never thought there was a monkey on his back, and I really have to tend to agree with him. I mean, there was so much made that well, you never won a playoff game prior to last week against the Eagles. Well, the fact was he only was in one other playoff game. That was a year ago, where he played lights out football. I mean, he passed for over 400 yards and four touchdowns, and the Packers did not lose last year because of him. So, for the so-called media or whoever it was that kind of conjured up this notion that there was a monkey on his back, I think was a little silly, and he even used that word, that was silly. And the other thing he said, and he's said this before, is he doesn't look at it as I'm the quarterback, I win games or I lose playoff games. He says it's a team game, and I've never won a game by myself and never will. So that's kind of the way he looks at it. And really, one thing that you have to look at his playoff statistics. Seven touchdowns in two games. That's more than any other quarterback in NFL history in their first two games. And he's got over 120 passer rating, which has never been done before by any quarterback. So, you really have to say he right now is one of the better playoff performers in the history of the game. Obviously, it's pretty early to judge just on two games, but he's played very well in pressure situations.
I always have a problem with that whole monkey on someone's back thing, unless, we're talking about a pattern that has gone on for,
Exactly.
7, 8 years. Maybe then at that point you can say, hey, there may be something going on long term, but, after 2 years, I think it's a little bit premature. Other thing, speaking of premature, came out. There's a lot of talk this week about the Packers being the best number 6 seed ever in NFL history, and they're a very good number 6 seed team. But it always seems like we're so quick to these days to rush and try to say this is ranks in this and all time, and so like just what did some guys have to say about that today?
Well, I thought it was interesting. Mike McCarthy, at his press conference today said, whenever you win a playoff game, you tend to draw a lot of attention. And of course, the Packers win over the Eagles has gotten a lot of the national people, alerted to the fact that they're for real, basically. Um, but he also then went on to say, I'm going to continue to preach to this team. I'm not buying the hype. Don't believe the hype that you hear. This notion of being the best ever number 6 seed. He said, when I walk out of here, I'm not going to give it another thought because it's not going to help us beat the Atlanta Falcons, and that's his focus. And of course, the other thing you have to look at is, well, how can they be the best ever number 6 seed when the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2005, they were the number 6 seed, they won the Super Bowl. So until the Packers do that, it is a little premature to start making those proclamations. The one thing I will say is they are, for a number 6 seed, they're not your typical run-of-the-mill 6 seed that slid into the playoffs. They obviously are a solid team that is capable of knocking off the number 1 seed, and the odds makers tend to agree. I mean, they're saying it's a 2-point game. They favor the Falcons by 2 on their home field, which means on a neutral site, the Packers would actually be considered the better team, which to me is kind of amazing for a 6 seed. So we'll take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, home field advantage is usually worth 3 points in itself, and it's a good fodder for us to talk about on video and fans to chat about. But I wouldn't get too caught up in that whole best number 6 seed of all time kind of thing. So, anyways, let's wrap it up. Once again, thanks for joining us. I'm Kareem Copeland. It's Mike Vandermause, and borrowing your phrase, we're out.